right, we are live again. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a great afternoon thus far. And we have Matthew Alexand here with us all, Head of Digital Corporate Finance and Asset Tokenization at SEBA Bank. And he's going to be speaking about SEBA Bank and their vision of tokenization, liquidity, and what the future will bring. Don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat. And we'll get to them after this presentation. Matthew, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Shiraz, and good afternoon to everybody who's tuned in. I've been told, yes, that we have a relatively short slot this afternoon, and I think given some of the very interesting conversations that have been going on this afternoon, I'll try to be concise and focus on some of the materials I think that are most interesting. So whilst I put up the slides, just to introduce myself. So I've been with SEBA now for around 1 year. SEBA Bank is a relatively small and new bank based here in Zug in Switzerland. And it's been operating now since its license was granted in 2018. So established around 2017, 2018 with the vision, I would say, of creating an institutional platform for digital asset adoption. And I'll go through, I think, in a few minutes a little bit what SEBA is about, what we're doing, and then specifically talking a bit about liquidity, market infrastructure. That's also been a hot topic this afternoon, and how I see the development of asset tokenization with that in mind. So if I begin with a little bit on who SEBA Bank is and where we're positioning ourselves. If I think back to 2017, 2018, when the bank was established, I was actually working at the time at Julius Baer, who's part of one of the anchor strategic shareholders of SEBA. It was very, very clear already at that time that in the future, in order to really capitalize on the promise of digital assets, both in terms of market infrastructure and adoption globally, as well as specific products and accessibility, there were a couple of things that were needed. And one, I think, is security, and the other one is liquidity. And we keep coming back to those themes, I think, as we talk internally and how we're building our capabilities and how we're rolling those out. And at the time, we could see the development of the industry would benefit from certain qualities in terms of who would most benefit from accessing the services and the platform that SEBA Bank has built. And here, I think, in terms of breadth of services, we were very, very sure at the time that in order to be an institutional grade counterpart, you need to provide a breadth of services that could cater not just to some of the niche players and the niche products, but to have a relatively complete service. And that's what we've built at SEBA. I think we increasingly see that now as we see the adoption move more from, let's say, retail led adoption to an institutional adoption. The depth and the breadth of capabilities that are really needed to fuel that adoption are becoming more and more evident. And I think when you think about what institutional grade means, that's talked of extensively. What does it really mean? I think those qualities are ones which we've embedded within the fabric of SEBA. So to have a Swiss banking license from the FINMA, which is a fantastic and progressive location for blockchain in particular, in the valley here, of course, in Zug, but also as a financial marketplace with a great heritage, a great legal and regulatory infrastructure. And I think that is another element, is the marriage between technology on the one hand and banking experience, because I think what we're positioning to do is to really fuel and enable that transition from a traditional banking world into the DeFi community. And if I think about the future of asset tokenization, but also in digital banking, I think in 10 years' time, perhaps we'll look back and maybe hand in our banking license. Our banking license is critical at the moment, but if we move to that sort of future view of where we should be operating on a decentralized public blockchain, which is where I see it, and possibly a federated, decentralized world of banking, there is a journey that ends perhaps with a banking license being given up, and I think that's an interesting thing to think about. So we've positioned ourselves pretty early. We're now operational fully for about 12 to 18 months now, and I'll go through a little bit our banking platform and services. before I get into asset tokenization. I think here, just very briefly, these numbers are now outdated by the minute, given the volatility in the markets in the last few days and weeks, but I think it's pretty clear the huge opportunity, I think, that we see in the transition towards digital banking. So global institutions, not just from a cryptocurrency or an investment perspective, are adopting en masse, or beginning to adopt en masse, and we hope that that continues. But I think in terms of digital assets, investable asset classes, and the major real estate, debt and equity, etc., market sizes are still in a very, very nascent stage. And I note, I'm sure a lot of you in the community as well see, particularly in the asset tokenization side, that we still remain in a fairly nascent state. And I think in terms of, again, the catalysts for real adoption of digital assets and asset tokenization, it's all about security and about liquidity. I think the technology is progressing every day and exceeding, I think, the pace at which regulation can keep up. So let me move to the next slide, and I think, again, just to reinforce, I think, where SEBA has positioned itself. And by no means is this an extensive chart, and no means in any way offensive to any of my esteemed competitors and colleagues. But I think the point here is that we really do see, if you look on the vertical and the x-axis, the degree of regulation and let's say the catalyst that brings, the ability for us to operate and interact at an institutional level in the institutional space, means that you do need an adequate set of licenses and capabilities. And that's something we're positioning very strongly. And we see a lot of resonance, we see a lot of growth in that sense. In terms of the breadth of the offering, as I mentioned as well, there are many fantastic players out in the ecosystem doing various different verticals. And I think what we're trying to do is to place ourselves in enough of those verticals such that we can cater to an institutional demand for digital assets or for digital banking services. Let's just dwell a little bit on what we're doing and where we're focusing at SEBA. So a little on the left-hand side, we're talking about institutional digital asset banking. So it's the rails, it's the on and off ramping. So that's well established now, and we're one of the few that can provide multi-currency clearing in Europe, and we're increasingly working with ecosystem partners and platforms, providing, again, as is the theme of this discussion, liquidity, and that is something which I think we'll see continued demand. I think if you see or ask where are the pinch points in adoption in the traditional world of digital assets, it's the simple banking. So funding an account, transferring that onto a DeFi platform and being able to transact is still a pinch point, and that's where we're positioning to increase that velocity. And I think in the second element, digital corporate finance, asset tokenization, I'll come to in a second. Primary issuance. So again, SEBA's positioning really as a digital investment bank. We are not building full verticals. We're also partnering with different specialists in our field. But we very much see in private market debt, private market equity, and I'll come to this, the primary issuance capability from a banking grade platform is something which is increasingly in demand. It's still an early stage, but we have various projects ongoing there that point us in the direction of, I think, a future which sees very much a digital platform for primary banking services from an investment banking perspective. Digital payment solutions as well. Again, in order to cater to an institution on the most innovative technology and banking solutions, you still have to do the simple things. So digital payment solutions there is a core competence that we have, and that stretches across also things like new money networks, the Libra sort of Diems of the world, the stable coins, and bank issued grade stable coins. On the right-hand side, digital asset investment products. This is something which is very much born out of our relationships with our strategic partners. We have a range there of digital asset underlyings, directional products, index products, which are listed also on the Swiss Stock Exchange. These things are delivered, again, on a blockchain. So to enable that adoption in the traditional world, we're able to interact and connect with institutions, with managers, distribution channels, who do not have their own so just saying that on the digital investment side, again, if you differentiate and also key into the adoption, the long-term and massive adoption of digital assets is being able to have deep liquidity. So we act as a market maker. We have a fully automated platform as well as a principal basis for a range of cryptocurrencies. And I think what was terrific to see is from him today, actually, in the volatility of the last couple of days, the markets
Matthew?
in
Matthew?
very volatile
Can you hear me?
conditions, we've been able to have 100% uptime and hit all of our trades. And I think that's something which
Matthew, can you
we
hear
see
me?
as an increasingly valuable
Hello?
commodity or capability towards an institutional player who, in these markets,
Hello?
not only needs to see liquidity.
Can you hear me, Matthew? Is it possible that you can refresh your browser? You have frozen? Just refresh the whole browser. Okay, everybody, we're hoping that it will work. And yes, Manuel, in the bottom, I will say that Airmeet had nothing but good reviews, really good reviews. So this is quite shocking. Matthew, if you haven't heard me, please refresh the entire browser, and then it resets the connection. You have fallen out completely. Okay, I think he's refreshing now, guys. Hopefully we get him back really soon. All right. Can you unmute? Yeah. You are still freezing, for me at least. Your screen is freezing. Did you refresh the browser?
I don't know what's. Shall I do that?
Yeah, try that. That always works for me.
Okay.
Hopefully we get him back now.
Yes.
Hello. Where you dropped to?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was my internet or not, so I was refreshing. And so let's hope that it works now.
Okay, Matthew, can you try again? I will hide myself, and please try again.
I'll try again.
It seems to be better now.
Let's try that again. I don't know if you can hear me. It seems the connectivity was not great. Please let me know.
We can hear you much.
Okay. Excellent. Jumping into these cases, that's always a great way to illustrate a little bit what we're doing. Tokenization, as I think you'll hear a lot of people, is pointless in and of itself. However, the technology does allow us. Is it okay?
I think in a robotic voice you asked if it's okay, but it's not so okay.
If I turn on the video, perhaps
maybe
that might help the bandwidth. Okay, please let me. So I think
I don't know if you
just
can hear me
a
clearly,
little
Matthew, but it's still rather
I tend to look around free.
robotic.
Not about.
Well, at least we have your slide that is very insightful for the audience. But hopefully we can we can get to the bottom of the tech problem. Well, we do only have 4 minutes left. That is true. So maybe it's the right time to get a coffee whilst we try and solve these issues before moving on to the next keynote of the afternoon, and then onto the panel. I'm sure you're all looking forward to that one.
All right, guys, I'm being told that unfortunately we can't get him back. So I think, Shiraz, if you just move us along, we go to the next speaker. So,
all right.
too bad.
All right. No worries. Then everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this one, and we will be right back in a few minutes with the next discussion for you, which will be by Maximilian Portenlanger on investments in security tokens on an institutional investor level, regulatory requirements and similarities compared to other structured securities. Sounds rather interesting, and we will see you in a couple of minutes there.